You know me, SDMT. Let's get it, baby. Let's get it. You already know it's time to get rolling on another podcast. No cap, straight facts with SDMT, man. Let's get to it, man. We got some great topics today, you know what I mean? NFL still rolling, even though it's the off season. It's a lot going on, especially with free agency coming up. But there was some news today that the NFL officials are thinking about adding in being able to review roughing the passer calls, which, you know, that sounds like a good thing and it sounds like a bad thing, but I'm going to tell you what that's from. In the Super Bowl, they missed Ndamukong Suh hitting Patrick Mahomes in the helmet on several occasions. You know what I mean? They missed it. You know what I'm saying? If that would have happened to Brady, they would have been throwing the flags, they panties, everything. You know what I'm saying? You ain't touching Tom Brady's helmet. But they allowed that to pass and slide in the Super Bowl. So I can tell those referees probably got some bad grades on that roughing the passer. So they're thinking about adding in reviewing of roughing the passer calls, which sounds like a good thing, but so it'll make the game longer. We get that. We do want to get things right, but how many times are you watching a game and there's a challenge and they review it, or either they just review it on their own and they still get it wrong? You know what I mean? Like, they still get it wrong. You know what I'm saying? We wasted time and you can't get it right. You know what I'm saying? That's messed up. They tweaking and they messing up the game. So it sounds like a good thing. Maybe they'll try it for this year. But then you could imagine that, you know, they may be calling roughing the passer every 2 seconds. We understand that the quarterback's a very important position and it's a fantasy football league and you want to protect these guys. And we see Tom Brady playing in his mid-40s because quarterbacks are so protected. Back in the day, he wouldn't have lasted that long. I'm sorry to tell you, he would have got blasted. You know what I'm saying? You've seen what happened to Steve Young and Troy Aikman. They had no choice. You know what I mean? They took them hits. So when we look at it, it sounds like a good thing. I'm kind of iffy about it. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, it could, you know, help them get it right, but sometimes they still don't get it right. So we'll see if they implement that to next season, but I'm not very against it or very for it. I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, if it helps them get it right, cool. But there's no guarantee that they're going to get it right. You know what I mean? We've seen that. We've seen it. So we look at that. The next thing I want to get into, man, is J.J. Watt's contract, man. He has a big contract with the Cardinals. It has a lot of incentives and, you know, it's just a lot of details. So one of the biggest things with J.J. Watt's contract, he gets a $12 million signing bonus. You know what I'm saying? Just signing that contract, $12 million. You know what I mean? 12 M's. J.J. Watt, you know what I mean? He deserves it, man. He's an experienced veteran, all-pro, just star. You know what I mean? And the Cardinals are happy to have him. You know what I mean? So $12 million out the gate. You know what I mean? Then he gets $14.5 million in a base salary for 2021. So at his position, that's still pretty good. He's not getting the highest of the high pay for edge rushers. You know what I mean? We see edge rushers making, you know, up to $20 million. So he's at a later point in his career. So he's getting 14, which is still nice. You know what I'm saying? He's still getting a bag. You know what I mean? Also, he ends up getting about 13.5 base in 2022. And it's like his base salary ends up being about $28 million over that 2-year span. But also he gets $3 million in sack incentives. So if he gets 10 sacks, he gets $1 million bonus on that, and that can escalate to, you know, maybe 1.5 per se. So, and then he also gets the same thing in 2022 where he gets another. If he gets 10 sacks, he gets another $1 million. So that's how he gets a max value contract of $31 million. So, you know, that's pretty huge right there. We look at the contract is pretty nice, and another big thing, the big thing about this, there's a no trade clause. So what that really means is you can't trade a player unless he agrees, which is huge. They had that in the NBA, but the NFL really has been late on that. But quarterbacks have been starting to get it, and some star players. And I like that J.J. Watt got that added into his contract. So, you know, the Cardinals are stuck with him. You know what I mean? Unless he, you know, agrees. Well, they could release him, but they can't trade him next year without his permission. So that's huge right there. We look at that, man. And Another thing about J.J. Watt, man, I was very happy he came out and said one of the reasons he chose the Cardinals is he believes in Kyler, man. Kyler Murray, you know what I mean? And I love J.J. Watt, man. He was supportive of social injustices and just, you know, equality. And, he's a good dude, man. He's not just focused on himself and maybe what he came from, but he thinks about a lot of other people around him. And he's came out there and he's helped communities of all races. So, man, J.J. Watt is an awesome superstar and an awesome person, man. They're going to love him in Arizona. You know what I mean? They're going to love him. And Kyler, we look at him, you know, he had a very solid year. He was an MVP discussion for a second. He was in there. You know what I mean? He was in there. He ended up having 26 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions. He rushed for over 800 yards, had another 11 TDs, so he had 37 touchdowns he accounted for. So, you know, when you look at his rookie year, he had 20 TDs and 12 interceptions as well. And, you know, he's definitely progressed. You know what I mean? So somebody like J.J. Watt, you see him, you come from a brother, you know what I mean, with Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson, and he wants to go play with another brother and Kyler at quarterback. You got to love it. So Kyler's definitely been making strides and improving. You can see he's a developing young quarterback. And, you know, I expect big things from him, you know what I mean, coming into this next season. I was on my Instagram, I kind of called out one of the analysts that said that Kyler should have won the MVP last year before the season. I thought it was too early. I wanted to see him, you know, develop a little bit more before people start putting that cloud over his head for MVP. So when we look at it, you know what I mean? When we look at it after this year, I think going into 2021 season, Kyler will definitely be an MVP candidate. You know what I mean? We look at what he can do with his arm and his legs. He chose to run the ball a lot more last year, you know what I mean? Over 800 yards rushing, 11 TDs. So that lets you know that he can get it done. When he wants to run the ball, he can run, and he's fast. You know what I'm saying? You ain't catching him once he gets ahead, you know what I mean? So Kyler Murray, man, he's definitely convinced J.J. Watt that he's someone that he believes in. You know who had a lot to do with that was DeAndre Hopkins, you know what I mean? J.J. Watt, you know, sent a message to DeAndre Hopkins, let's finish what we started. You know what I mean? And, you know, DeAndre Hopkins definitely said some good words about Kyler to make J.J. Watt believe that, you know, that Cardinals have an opportunity to, you know, chase a ring. You know what I mean? I think they're going to be a better team. There's a lot of memes out there. People like, oh, they're going to be 8-8. You know what I mean? But, hey, man, I definitely think they'll be a lot better. That division is going to be interesting if Russell Wilson leaves. You know what I mean? That's going to change things a lot. The 49ers need to do something at quarterback. You know what I mean? The Rams are going to be a lot better. Yeah, the Rams are going to be a lot better with Matthew Stafford. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. That division is going to be rough, though. That's a rough division, the best division in football. No cap. You know what I'm saying? You already know. But that's that. The next thing I want to get into, man, is Rick Spielman of the Vikings came out and said that the Vikings are going to be, you know, holding on to Kirk Cousins for this next 2021 season. He's going to be their quarterback. And I'm letting you know right now, the Vikings are not getting a ring. They're not winning no Super Bowls with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. You know what I mean? They're a talented team, but you see a lot of the times these teams get complacent with these quarterbacks that are good enough to maybe make the playoffs, but they're not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Same thing with Ryan Tannehill. People get mad at me because I call out Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is not good enough. That team has a solid run game, you know what I mean, a defense, and if they had a solid quarterback, they could, you know, be a Super Bowl contender. Just like the Buccaneers, they bring in Tom Brady, they had a great defense, add running game, boom, and they're champions. You know, these quarterbacks that are just kind of like above average, you know what I mean, they're not good enough. You look at Kirk Cousins' stats, he had over 4,000 yards, he had 35 TDs, 13 interceptions, and 5 fumbles that were recovered by the opposition. So he had 18 turnovers. But when we really look at it, you know, he's had opportunities to show he can be the guy. He can run up stats. He definitely can. But is he that guy that can make those tough throws and get you these big playoff wins and big moments? And he's not. You know what I mean? He's not. The Vikings, you know, they'll be, you know, they can maybe go 9-7, 8-8, maybe 10-6 at best. Maybe 11-5. They have a crazy year, but they're not getting no ring. You know what I mean? You know, he's just not good enough. Just like Ryan Tannehill is not good enough. You imagine if the Titans can make a play, get Deshaun Watson. That changes everything. That whole dynamic of that team changes everything. You know what I mean? Ryan Tannehill has like one playoff game where he had 200 yards passing. You know what I mean? That lets you know that team lives and dies with, Derrick Henry. It just does. You know what I mean? In those playoff victories last year, Derrick Henry rushed for more yards than Ryan Tannehill threw for. That lets you know right there. How many times does a running back create more yards than a quarterback? Almost never. You know what I mean? That just lets you know. So we look at that, man. The Vikings are tweaking, but it's all good. I'm a Lions fan. Y'all want to go Kirk Cousins? It's cool with me. You know what I mean? It hasn't really worked out for you guys in a sense of winning Super Bowls or being, big playoff contenders. But hey, you know what I mean? It is what it is. It is what it is. Some people are comfortable with, just being good enough. You know what I mean? But not getting that ring. And Kirk Cousins is not getting a ring. I'm sorry to tell you. If you're a Vikings fan, you're holding on to hope, but I'm crushing your hope because Kirk Cousins is not good enough. You know what I mean? He's not. All right. And yeah, so I really wanted to get into, man. And those are my topics for today of the podcast. You know what I mean? I also want to talk about Van Noy, the linebacker for the Dolphins. He was cut 1 year into his contract. You know what I mean? Of a $31 million contract. You know what I mean? He's cut after 1 year by the Dolphins. They saved about 9.5 in cap space. But at the end of the day, he came out and said, he was a captain of the team. He went to the hospital and he battled for his team. He's very disappointed and hurt that he was released. So you see these guys and a lot of these fans love to go crazy when they see these contract numbers. Oh, 31 million contract. He did 1 year. He's never getting nowhere near that 31 million. You know what I mean? So a lot of these numbers, they sound good, but the guarantee is the most important. And the NFL is so quick to get rid of guys. At any point, you signed a 4-year deal, we're going to get rid of you after year 1. So when you tell a guy, you need to stick to your contract, man, teams aren't even honoring contracts. So if a player starts playing very well at the top of his position, he feels like he wants a raise, I'm all for it. I'm all for it because the team is going to do the same thing. If you're not playing up to a certain standard, even if you are playing up to a standard, they may want to make cuts to make their salary cap situation better. So at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. So a lot of fans are uneducated or just haters of players and envious that they weren't able to make it to the league. Stop being like that, man. It's okay. It happens. We don't all get to be where we want to be, but that doesn't mean you hate. You know what I mean? So stop hating on these players, man. And these owners got billions and billions and enough to live off for a long time. So I'm not even worried about them. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Those are the topics for today. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys feel in the comments. I'm going to be checking out the comments. I'm going crazy on the podcast daily. I'm trying to bring a lot of fire. I'm about to drop my top 5 running backs. I'm about to drop my draft coverage. And I'm about to drop this weight gain. So y'all stay locked into the channel. You feel me? And that's a wrap on SDMT. I'm out.